sometimes stress is good because it makes you build muscles, right? And it makes you tougher, like mentally. However, when you're really under a high stress time in your life, not all stress is good. It can be seen as bad stress.
Hey parents, quick heads up. DJ Raffi is bringing his high energy kid favorite live show to Philadelphia on March 11th, 2026. Think music, movement, laughter, and kids actually joining the show, not sitting still. If your family loves dancing, joy, and unforgettable memories, grab your tickets now. Details are in the show notes, and we'll see you there. Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Cieslinski, aka the Running Wine Mom. Today's conversation feels like one so many women need, especially if you love running, movement, or just showing up fully for yourself. My guest today understands the body from both sides of the story, as an athlete who pushed limits and as a healer who's learned to listen. We're talking about women's wellness in sport, how hormones, stress, and nutrition shape not just performance, but longevity, why pushing harder isn't always the answer, and what it actually looks like to care for your body in a way that lets you keep doing what you love for years to come. She's the founder of VUIM Clinic, where traditional East Asian medicine meets modern evidence-based care focused on personalized healing, education, and sustainable vitality. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Hailey Parker. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, Samantha.
I'm so excited for our conversation today. But before we start getting into all that fun, we have our wine, and one of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite drink, then about something that's been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So, Dr. Parker, what is your drink of the week?
So I was really thinking about wine and I have stopped drinking wine and I am actually a tequila girl through and through at this point. I mean, I had a really amazing mezcal margarita the other night when a friend came through town and that's been on my taste buds. So hopefully this weekend I'll grab another one just to
Yeah.
put the icing on the cake.
Tequila is something I always want to love and get into, but I just always kind of forget about it, or I just grab the bottle of wine instead of the bottle of tequila instead.
Yeah, I don't know who turned me on to tequila a long time ago, but it was nice, I think, because my body could just handle it. It's a bit of a
Mhm.
stimulant and it's a clear liquor. So it really, if you drink it wisely, you're not going to be too upset with yourself the next day. And, that's something that if we ever go out to dinner parties or wherever going and we're out for an extended period of time, pacing yourself and that whole thing of moderation that you just spoke about is really important so that you can get back up on the horse the next day and continue on with your busy schedule. So, another thing that I learned and probably many of you have too, is the water to drinking ratio. But if you keep
Yes.
hydrated, you also, you maybe know when you had a little too much fun, but you can recover much easier.
Yeah, so true. Especially as I age, I find the recovery is a little bit harder. uh, so what is your complaint wine of the week?
Oh, gosh, I think the thing I'm feeling like it's been a longer week this week just because everyone's getting back from the holiday season where we all went into a little bit of a hibernation mode and now emails are coming back with a vengeance and we're starting to get the machine up and running again. So it's just trying to pace ourselves to get back through the ringer of the new year. But as far as it's Friday Eve, so we're
Yeah.
almost there. And sometimes I think that's where a former version of myself would have gotten really flustered by it, but knowing that wait a second, I can get to emails tomorrow. I can even work into the weekend to just give myself a little bit more balance today and less stress getting
Yeah,
through to the end of the day.
that's awesome. And what's your win of the week?
My win of the week. We had one last really nice pre-spring day here just the other day. So I got up and I went for a run outside and
Oh my
I
gosh.
typically am that person that gets up and looks at emails and then there's this fork in the road where I'm like, okay, if I don't get up and go do an exercise, then I just stay in emails or stick with you know, there's the choice moment, right? And so
Right.
I went and I did a nice run and it was so beautiful. I felt so good after that. And my brain worked a whole heck of a lot better to answer some of those emails. So that was a win. It's that inertia. If you get objects in motion, stay in motion. And so get moving in the morning.
Yeah, we just had yesterday that same kind of day. I'm in the Philadelphia area, and it was like, "Oh my gosh, this is wonderful." I teach high school phys ed as well, and I said to my 7th graders, I said, "Does anyone wanna go outside for tennis and pickleball today?" The whole class raises their hand. We all go outside, like, my administration is like, "What are you doing? This is crazy," but we had the best time, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, never in January do we go outside."
No way. Normally January, because we're just down here in in Virginia, so we're kind of similar weather
Yeah.
patterns there. But yeah, it's like January and February are notoriously like just our like icy months and like
Mhm.
our windy months. And like I do notice this though, like come January time when we do get these like little surprise days, everyone is outside. We're so much happier. We can
Mhm.
take it for granted in the spring and in the fall because we're just so used to like the sunshine. And then when we're finally getting some rays breaking through those clouds, like, oh, it's a game changer.
It really is. So on the Running Wine Mom, we are gonna talk more fitness, but I wanna know, what's your favorite way to stay active?
Well, so I, funny enough, just accomplished a little bit of a bucket list and I ran 2 marathons. So
Oh my
I
gosh.
have been training for probably like the last couple months just to build my endurance.
Mhm.
I was not looking to be an all-star runner, nor do I need to continue with it, but running is so efficient and so awesome for your body, your cardiovascular system. Again, kind of teaching me how to breathe because sometimes
Mhm.
I find myself very shallowly breathing or just holding my breath if I'm stressed. And it's such a great release of endorphins. And that helped me through this winter really be able to get outside, get fresh air, see some morning sunlight before, I'm in the car or in the office all day. And it's been really wonderful for me. So I've added more cardio into my calisthenic, weight training, and then trying to just stay with friends. And we'll do a double whammy of like getting together, having girl talk, but maybe walking and like getting some fresh air at the same time. So an array of different things to keep us active, but also checking all the boxes that we have to
Yeah,
check every day. Yeah.
I know, yeah. Well, that's awesome about the marathon. That's so which ones did you run?
Yeah. So I was part of the Honolulu Marathon, which
Oh,
this
that's a
year,
big one.
yeah, and this year that was my very first one, and I didn't know what to expect. We did have a little extra pressure on us going all the way out there to do it, but it was the only year, I guess people who've done it many years reported it was just pouring rain. And
No.
it was one of those funny moments where you just all bets are off. You never know how race day is gonna be.
Mhm.
But you still could make the most of it and, like, you could still see that everyone was there to have fun.
Right.
It was a silly race, like and we still completed it overall for being a first one, we did it, and then I wanted what's called my redemption run, and so just a few weeks later, because I didn't wanna keep up training through the
Yeah,
winter,
so smart.
I was out visiting my aunt who's in New Mexico, and I did the Las Cruces Marathon.
Wow.
Totally different, like comparatively to like 40,000 people, there were only a couple hundred people, and the weather was perfect. Everything went exactly according to plan. I made the time I wanted to make, and so now I can say I can retire from running marathons. But
And
it was really cool.
it's so funny that you explained it that way because I did the New York City Marathon twice and 2 years in a row basically, and the first year I was just so overwhelmed. It was so exciting. I loved every second of it, but I was like, "Wait, there's things that I missed that I wanted to do differently." I'm like, "I gotta do it one more time, and then I'll feel complete." And that's exactly what it is. I'm like, "I never have to run a marathon again."
I mean, and like, there's always the victory of like you get up and you do like a long run, like a 10-mile run or a
Yeah.
half marathon, just to say you still got it or something like
Mhm.
that. But there's really no like winging a marathon.
No,
So,
not at all.
like to train and then, to have it's not luck if you did it twice, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I felt the same way and it goes to show that if you ever had to go back through the training, you could,
Could.
or
Yeah.
if you ever did a third one, you could do it for a completely different reason. You could go and just like walk it and I saw
Right.
there's like these different tiers of runners. There's like the ones who are like the pro runners, like
Mhm.
they are getting sponsored, they are making it in like, world record time. You get those like incredibly intense runners. Then you get the average runner where I fall
Right.
into. And then you have the people who are just like, I'm envious of them. They're having fun. They're maybe doing it, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, but they're like laughing. They maybe are having drinks every, mile
Couple.
marker. Yeah. And, but it was so refreshing and so eye opening to see how different people approached it and how like
Yeah.
even through adversity you could really still make a great it was a great fun challenge. And,
Mhm.
you could see teamwork coming out of the woods. And it was really neat. And, I'm glad that those hours are behind me, but it was all in all, like a really awesome eye opening experience. And I have so much more respect for people who are just avid runners doing the
I
Ironmans or
know.
triathlons and just the all around athlete.
Yeah. So how does maintaining your fitness routine contribute to your mental health?
Well, so I was a former college athlete and
Mhm.
very athletic growing up. I grew up with brothers, so it was kind of a way my mom would get our energy out, go outside and play. But anyhow, so much of what we do in our society is very mentally, emotionally draining. We put
Mhm.
a lot of cerebral energy into our jobs. And sometimes it's really nice to be able to come back into our bodies and have some somatic awareness. It's a form of exercise, is a form of like qigong, like active exercise of bringing our breath and our body together. So through that, like the brain and body connection help us to maintain our balance. And then because exercise is so wonderful for releasing endorphins and neurotransmitters and bringing oxygen into our bloodstream and up into our brain, it really does help calm our nervous system and be able to give us a new perspective, which sometimes is what we need when we've been stuck like hyper hawk-eyed focused on like an email all day. And sometimes we need to get
Right.
outside and get some fresh air or just go change it up. Like a lot of the time, as we were talking about, your exercise routine is also a social outlet. And that social quality of life is also one of the big factors in balance and
It's
maintaining
so
a healthy
true.
lifestyle.
Yeah, that's so I agree with that, and like we were saying earlier, like, just getting outside in that January month really did so much for my mental health yesterday, it truly did. So that's gonna be a perfect segue into the next question that I have. So you've lived both as an athlete and now you are a healer. What kind of was the moment you realized your body needed more than just pushing harder?
Man, I think we all innately kind of know that, and it's really hard to find that temperance and find what balance really is. And someone really wise said to me one time, like a lot of the time you only find balance in motion because otherwise
Yeah.
we kind of like fall over, right? So with that, like how do you continue to maintain a lifestyle, still staying active, still staying mobile, still going about your daily routine while at the same time trying to find recovery and be able to like repair
Mhm.
and maybe even like change directions because change actually asks for a lot more energy than we realize. So when I was an athlete through college, and after college, like I wasn't going to go on to really compete further or try to like pursue any other leagues beyond college sports. However, those lingering injuries certainly kept talking to me, and through like just trying to get in and acclimated into the real world, being still athletically driven and my mind still wanting to perform like an athlete, I would still aggravate those injuries. And
Mhm.
I was out working with my grandfather, the story a lot of people hear when they talk about my conversion moment into this medicine. And I was still trying to push through that pain. And my back was just yelling at me because your
Mm.
body speaks symptom. And if you're not listening to those little whispers or those little whimpers, then it's going to find ways to be like, girl, stop doing what you're doing. And so, anyway, my grandfather took me to his acupuncturist, and he was a holistic practitioner with chiropractic nutrition. And he really opened my eyes to there were more ways in which you could really exercise your body, you can maintain your body, you can help heal your body, and ultimately help to bring down my pain levels in that process. And so when I saw how he was implementing that, and not all exercise has to be yang or like,
Mhm.
yin and yang, some can be very yin. And yet, when you balance that out, your body is going to work so much better for you. You're going to have the longevity. You'll be able to push yourself through a marathon, or you'll be able to just maintain a healthy cardiovascular regimen for, months and years to come.
Yeah, and so how did your own running and injury experiences kinda shape the way you now care for other women?
So I can certainly understand the athletic mindset. And it was really difficult when you are injured, especially as an athlete, that so much of your identity is wrapped around performance or you being really competitive, right? And competitive with yourself, but also to maintain your standing on a team or like a scholarship if you are a college athlete. If you're a paid professional athlete, your career depends on it. So it's really difficult when you have to understand rest as a very, very vital component to your performance, and it
Mhm.
seems unproductive, but rest is so valuable. And if we can hyperbarically create rest within our regimen, then we're able to continue a much quicker process of healing and recovery. It's when we really get injured and we're not listening that the body has an equal opposite reaction. And usually those injuries are far more significant and take a lot longer to unravel and then piece back together.
Yeah. And so many of us, we can see the physical injuries, but let's talk about hormones for a second. What do most women runners misunderstand about how their cycle affects energy, endurance, and recovery?
Man, well, so sometimes stress is good because it makes you build muscles, right? And it makes you tougher, like mentally and all of that. However, when you're really under a high stress time in your life, not all stress is good. It can be seen as bad stress. So I have
Hmm.
a lot of women who are very high performance here in the Washington, D.C. area. And then they go and they're exercising and they're throwing themselves into like really intense hit training or, 6 days a week, twice a day, like whatever it may be, thinking that it's helping them get their stress off. But in fact, they're starting to overtrain and their body's like innate resources are starting to get so depleted that they're starting to have more chronic fatigue. Their body starts to release so much cortisol that they start gaining weight, which is usually the opposite of what we
Right.
want to do with our exercise, right? That creates more stress for us women. And anyway, it starts to turn into this like downward cycle
Hmm.
where your body's actually breaking down. And we have to sometimes like reset you, right? With our hormones, just going through those ebbs and flows of our cycle can be really taxing cellular stress on the body. And so
Right.
when we are say menstruating, if we're still at that stage of life where we're menstruating, we're losing blood, and that blood very simply would be carrying oxygen to our
Right.
cells and our brain, but also it's very fatiguing. Our bodies are going through a process like in most ancient cultures, and during that time it was a very sacred time where women would pull away and isolate to give themselves rest and recovery and then come back out into the world. And here we are as Americans that are
Yeah.
like, no, we're going to push through and we're going to like hyper perform and we're going to do even better. And
Right.
most of us do. Like that is our culture, right? Most of us do. However, we always are going to have that that trade-off somewhere else. And what we say in traditional East Asian medicine is often we're trading that out for our jing or our deeper resources. While women, we tend to get wiser as we get older. We do start to lose and deplete our energy. We start to see that, when we start getting fine lines and wrinkles, graying hair. We start to become much more irritable. But
Hmm.
ultimately, if we can find that balance, then we can have that aging gracefully, as well as be able to maintain a little bit more of a levelness in our moods and in our swings of our cycles.
So, how do these high performing athletes find their balance without releasing so much cortisol? Because sometimes I'm like curious, even for myself, that am I working out too hard, or but then I'm like, I'm not working out hard enough. And then how do you tell people to find that balance?
That's a great question. And, really each person's so individualized and so different. It ultimately will come back down to the person of being able to listen to their body and becoming more in tune with your body. Now, it's a multifaceted approach, right? Like there needs to be an optimal amount of sleep, and not just sleep like
Hmm.
I got 7 hours, but like restful sleep, as well as like nutrition, hydration, that mental aspect. Are you working out to really beat yourself up, or are you working out to really like honor yourself and do it from like more of a joyous high vibration?
Hmm.
Are you doing it to attain this like exciting goal, or is it more of this like angst about this goal, right? So that mental attitude factors in. Ultimately, I think a cross training is really important because you don't need to do the same exercise every single day. Your body is actually going to repair and create muscle and also lay more networks of nutrition through the circulatory system, signals through the nervous system at rest. And so we
Hmm.
have a very simple binary of like the rest and digest or that fight or flight. And typically in exercise, we're pushing ourselves, we're creating this like stress response. So we're in that fight or flight. And it's that rest and digest where we have that repair, and being able to oscillate between the two very cleanly, very smoothly is how a person's going to maintain their energy and be able to keep up with their training.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, also, what happens hormonally when women are under fueling, but they're training really hard?
Well, the energy's gotta come from somewhere. We typically are going to lose that from the areas that we we would need it first, like our
Right.
brain, like being able to think. We have a high cerebral capacity as human beings. Like that's where most of our caloric intake will go, just to be able to think. And then also a lot of our brain is doing the subconscious stuff, like making
Hmm.
sure we blink and digestive juices are released, or like, we're able to walk, or our rib cage can expand when we're breathing. So many of those things we really don't have to think about. And yet that's where a lot of our energy is going, or then just our based metabolism of keeping our core temperature. So those functions will start to shut down. And ultimately, your body will start to go into what's like almost a starvation mode where you'll conserve calories. And there too, when you don't have that balance quite right, or you're not fueling properly, then your body tends to hold on to caloric intake, hold on to fat, not want to release certain
Hmm.
energy to go to your brain or your body because it's worried that maybe if this continues, it might be detrimental to you.
And so for the busy moms out there and all the working women who run, either early mornings or late nights, and they're trying to fit all this in, so adding even more stress onto themselves, with the good stress of exercise. But what's one hormone supportive habit that you think actually makes a difference?
Well, I mean, maintaining your stress levels. Like, not every run has to be like, I'm going to win this championship kind
Huh.
of run. Longevity is really important. And actually, when you keep your body in that fat burn, like that lower, cardiovascular level, you're really burning the stuff we want to burn
Right.
rather than the muscle or rather than like really depleting your energy. Plus, if you're doing that really late at night, that makes it difficult to fall asleep and be able to get a restful sleep to wake up in the
Yeah.
morning. And then we get on that cycle where we're highly caffeinating, and then that's creating another level of acid and cellular stress in our body. So, maintaining that like longevity attitude as well as like hydration. I think that's another thing to do to really maintain your body and making sure that it knows that like you are getting what you need. Small little meals, like even if it is late at night, something small to replenish, like your body will know that like you're in a state of rest to be able to like go ahead and properly go back into
Mm.
the fueling stage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit more about fueling. So many runners, they think nutrition is just carbs and protein. What are we missing when it comes to women's wellness?
So really a lot of the good fats, like think of a car or a machine, like, it doesn't go very far without oil, to grease the wheels, or it gets really clinky and rusty. And like, we don't want to be that way. I think who even wants the sound of rusty in their
Yeah.
adjectives that describe them, right? So, but no, the good fats are also like, we need fat. Fat is what creates our cell walls. And like, as we're replenishing our body, fats are great for helping to lubricate our organs and help with our joints. If we're not getting enough fat or not getting enough hydration, that's usually taken from the joints first. And
Hmm.
then that's where we start to have abnormalities in our joints to try to protect us or create a stronger joint, which then sometimes limits the range of motion. And, it's whether it's inflammation or we get some arthritis in certain areas. Or if you probably find, I call them my canaries. The
Yeah.
areas that were once injured become
Yeah.
really squawky and loud. And so then I kind of, it's a little bit of a wake up call for me to be like, hey, maybe you need to start to look back at, are you getting enough of the good
Right.
stuff? Are you eating a well balanced diet? And a little bit of a misnomer, there's no food that's just one macronutrient. They have a little bit of all proportions. And when we are looking at that from a caloric intake, remember your body is really not a Bunsen burner. If you're a highly active person or you live an active lifestyle, remember that if you're eating more high quality foods, your body's probably going to utilize that and efficiently burn it
Hmm.
rather than not knowing what to do with it. So what does the body do when it's confused? It'll usually store or it'll kind of shut down. And that's where we get inflammation in our gut or maybe like some side effects, some allergies that then make us not feel so good. And then there's always the cascade that comes from that.
Yeah. And how do you think the restriction culture shows up in endurance sports, like even for healthy runners?
Well, I can relate to this one because a lot of the time you get those nerves where you don't want to eat.
Hmm.
And you forget that, like, maybe you haven't had a good meal, if you say
Right.
you go out and you do your run and then you get back and then you're showering and it's like 2, 3 o'clock and you've really not put anything into your body, you're definitely there in a depleted state. And so even if you're not getting those signals, something small to really just stimulate your body's process is important,
Hmm.
as well as making sure that when you do have a good meal, it is really balanced. You can get your calories because otherwise you do start to lose it from the good stuff, like your muscles that would keep you going or help your posture. A lot of the internal organ muscles that you don't even think about. Again, another aspect of our body we
I
forget
know.
to thank and give it in our gratitude list every day. But all of those things that ultimately start to show aging later on. I had a doctor talking to me just the other day, and he was like saying to me how, because of my brain body conditioning, because of what I do with work, you know, we're really good at being able to understand our bodies, compensate in our bodies, and usually because of the innate way of our bodies designed to survive, we do a really good job. And he said, but your body, about 10 years from now will start giving out and you'll wonder what's going on because you've
Right.
always been able to do it before. And so it's really about the sustainable aspects of life, the sustainable habits and really working with your body because the body we're building today is the body we'll really be living in the future. We didn't listen to our grandmas or our moms when they said wear sunscreen or brush your teeth or we didn't really listen to them then, but we start to see it the next decade and the next decade. And so again, it's something to just remember that we are human beings and we have great stories to tell from our scars or our fine lines, whatever it may be. But if we really want the longevity and keep doing the things we love, like getting out and running or lifting our
Mhm.
grandkids or, playing pickleball, then just remembering to honor our body and what it needs today as well as 10 years from now.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I want to talk about with the blend of Eastern medicine with modern care. Can you tell us about the VUIM clinic? How was it founded? What do you enjoy most of it? And what does it actually look like to blend those two kinds of care together?
That's a great question. So, about 20 years ago, just over 20 years ago, a sensational woman named Jane founded VUIM out of a small little office building here in the Northern Virginia area. And it took off because so many students were craving finding holistic ways to help prevent illness as well as treat illness and really start to practice lifestyle medicine. And with that, Western medicine's wonderful. We're so lucky to live in a modern world where we have access to antibiotics and surgeries if that's actually what the intervention needs to be, but what can we do to help empower ourselves and really take care of ourselves to prevent illness in the first place? And so
Mhm.
much of that goes back to ancient practices of just remembering the pillars of health. And a lot of it's grateful thinking, eating well, nutrition, making sure everything flows. And traditional East Asian medicine, it's like if everything's flowing and circuits are moving, the body is designed to heal itself. It knows how to work. But what happens is we sit at desks in this like little fetal position, we drive in traffic, our bodies are still archaically wired, so we cannot differentiate between, a predator trying to attack us as we're nomadic people in the jungle to, oh, that was just an email from some, survey I took a long time ago. And, your fight or flight just keeps going
Yeah.
off and going off. And so we live in this world where our bodies are just really hyperstimulated, let alone the electromagnetic pollution and
Mhm.
driving on the highways on the East Coast, right? So, anyway, if we can help give our body a little bit of balance and bring it back into homeostasis, it'll know what to do. And a lot of our patients come into VUIM clinic either one as a last resort because they don't know what else to do. They're
Mhm.
tired of being given one more pill. They're tired of being told that they can't find anything. No, there's nothing wrong with them. And they're just like, no, but I don't feel well. Sickness isn't just the symptoms. It's, and the absence of illness. It's also
Mhm.
living optimally and doing the things that you want to do for your quality of life. So how can we support that and maintain that? So VUIM Clinic has been around for about 20 years. We have two other locations, one up in New Jersey and one down in Georgia. And we are the fastest growing acupuncture school in the United States by enrollment. So it's just a testament to how many people are looking to integrate holistic, whole person healthcare into mainstream medicine. And working a lot in the advocacy spaces here in DC, how whole person healthcare, food is medicine, working with exercise, working with doctors on social determinants of health, and how they often refer to us as another source to help support a patient's health plan and really optimizing that patient's goals for their own health care. It's really a patient centered care practice and really trying to get the patient to live the kind of life they want, whether it's running a marathon or just, staying active and doing their morning walks.
Yeah. So, and acupuncture and cupping, they still kind of feel mysterious to some athletes. What do they actually do for the nervous system and for recovery?
So it is absolutely understandable when people go, "Oh, needles, I don't know about needles," because we're very designed, we're conditioned in our society to think that needles correlate to sickness, whether you're getting a
Mhm.
shot or taking a blood test or, needles just have a stigma to them. But these little teeny tiny needles are very, very thin. And when you put those into the body, they're barely perceivable and they feel like a little tap and that helps increase circulation and promote the immune system. It helps release endorphins and neurotransmitters, and I really call it a reset. I tend to associate that with working more on the nervous system, helping the brain connect into the body through bidirectional communication pathways of helping everything synchronize and really ultimately helping to stimulate like a coding to the brain to heal from the inside out. The cupping, on the other hand, is like a negative pressure or more like a massage. And that cupping is going to work across the soft tissue, usually like the muscles or tight areas around the joints where ligaments and tendons maybe get a little knotted up. And it's going to help pull blood flow through that area. Sometimes we use a combo of the needle and the cupping to create more of a wet cupping or like pull out some blood, which helps to dredge the channel and get more circulation into an area to bring fresh oxygenated blood and nutrients to an area to help heal tissues. So it's optimizing, it's stimulating the body's natural healing response. So the body knows, oh, we really need to support this frozen shoulder. We really need to work on this like kink in the neck. We really need to help support this inflammation in the low back so that the body can get back up and running as quickly as possible and reinforce those areas so they don't get broken down by another injury. Because you ever notice that you twist your ankle and then it's like
Yeah.
you just kind of seem to keep twisting your ankle? It's
Mhm.
because it's weakened and the brain and the body haven't quite remapped that. So if we can help reinforce those tendons and ligaments, help to really stimulate the brain's connection to say, hey, this area needs a little extra support, the body can do a better job, not only proprioceptively standing on firm ground, but not tweaking it again so easily and
Yeah.
frustrating as it may be.
I know. And so how do personalized treatments differ from the one-size-fit-all recovery plans that runners often follow?
Well, as we said before, each person's different. I mean, whether it's by shape or size, male to female, age, like there are many factors. And so when a patient comes into our clinic, we go through an initial intake, we go through all major medical history, a review of systems. And what we're really trying to do, yes, we want to address your main concerns, but we really want to also find your deeper constitutional imbalances. So much like a really fine tuned watch, we want those second hands to work correctly so we can keep
Mhm.
time and then that time goes on to keep the time through days and days and days and taking on all the challenges that you may have. So with that, we go through an intake process, but there's many different ways in which we then in our traditional East Asian medicine take diagnostics. So it's kind of funny, but we check the tongue. It's the only muscle we can see on the outside of the body. It helps, it's like a map or a microcosm of the whole body, as well as taking pulses. And the pulses we're checking for the organs and how they relate to each other. I have worked with some really incredible masters in this medicine, and they can tell you what you ate. They can tell you if you're pregnant. They have such a
My
fine motor
gosh.
skill. And they would always say to me, you take like 100 pulses every day for 60 years, you can call yourself a beginner. I don't know if I'll hit that this
Yeah.
lifetime. But anyway, there's the pulses of the tongue, palpation, inquiry, and ultimately we're putting together what's called a pattern. And in this traditional East Asian medicine, you have this pattern that's not only helping to address that person's main concerns or those symptoms that their body's presenting, but also the root of why their body is presenting with those symptoms.
Mm.
So here again, this is a differentiation from Western medicine of not just treating the symptom or the pain, covering up the pain, but actually why does the person have the pain? How can we help support the body in helping to fix that pain for itself? And ultimately using the two together is helping with not only the branch, but the root and giving the body and the person the ability to keep doing what they need to do.
So I'm so interested about the tongue. Like, so when people come in, how have you been able to diagnose anyone by seeing something on their tongue, or what have you seen or read about that I guess shows?
Sure. So this is very interesting. I encourage anyone and everyone to go to Google.
Yeah.
It's very weird. You can go down those rabbit holes of
I'm
looking at
like, that's what
pictures.
I'm gonna be
Yeah,
doing that
you can
after this conversation.
You can do it. So, and again, I just want to reiterate that it's often a triangulation, meaning it's one input that then we use to go ahead and diagnose. But there are some pretty clear symptoms that we see on the tongue that then lead us to then further inquiry and
Mhm.
differentiation. In our medicine, we have certain rules of, staying within your lines and our jargon. And so we use words like dampness or our
Mhm.
chi or our blood. There are some pretty clear parallels with Western medicine. Say if somebody's really anemic in Western medicine, we would maybe notice blood deficiency signs on their tongue.
Oh,
However, they would need to go to their Western medical, primary care
right.
provider and take a blood test to confirm the diagnosis of anemia. But with that, we can guide them in directions and maybe catch something that maybe was not marked on
Right.
their physical exam the previous time. Candida shows up in the tongue, a
Mhm.
lot like a really thick, sticky coat. Sometimes I've seen like some infection. And, again, by further inquiry and based on what the patient's coming in presenting as, you're able to tease out maybe the root of where some
Mhm.
of their other symptoms are coming from. And then you would refer them out, say, to go to their dentist to get a checkup, see if they have an underlying infection. And if they do, you say, oh gosh, thank you for helping me.
Yeah.
And you feel really good about what you do because
Yeah.
the medicine itself has been around for thousands of years, and
Mhm.
these patterns have been tested by observation and just, practice for many millennia. So ultimately, when we see it, we're confirmed with other tests. A person feels better. That's the gratification for us. And ultimately, they tell all their friends, and we keep getting people coming in, say, check my tongue, check my tongue.
Yeah. I love that, and I feel as though that's my mentality with my personal self of, yes, of course, I'm gonna listen to the go to my primary doctor for things, but I love, like the cupping and acupuncture and learning about all of that stuff. I just saw on TikTok, there's a Chinese tea man in like Philadelphia that everyone goes to help like with their aliments. And I'm like, that's such a cool thing that people are able, like a gift that they're able to do. And I think that some people are, I don't know.
It all
I
works
love it.
together. It all
Yeah.
works together. And I think every doctor comes into medicine wanting to help their patients, and each doctor is specialized with a different
Hmm.
tool to help and for different main concerns. And I think any really awesome mechanic or any awesome handyman out there will totally tell you could get the job so done so much better with the right tools.
Right.
And so, when you have a toolbox with more tools, you chances are can work on more projects, right? And certain specialized doctors, they are the go-to. They are the person that you must see. Whereas
Yes.
when we're really trying to empower our patients and we're really trying to help our patients take better care of themselves, all doctors support healthy lifestyles. All doctors want
Yeah.
patients to advocate for themselves, take better care of themselves. And sometimes that patient education is just, it's so vast, it's hard to know where to look. And that's where holistic practitioners come in of helping to coach you through the process or maybe referring you to other teammates that can support that process as well. A lot of my patients ask me sometimes, like, what's better, chiropractic or physical therapy? What's better, massage or acupuncture? And it's like, well, it's like spokes to the wheel. All of them have
Right.
their place. My patient who goes to one practitioner might even still come and see me because two different acupuncturists have a little bit different philosophy. And sometimes we marry each other and we complement each other really
Hmm.
well. Or they want to continue their yoga therapy. I don't want to tell anybody no.
Right.
Or, oh my gosh, even more so the golfers, right? That's a
Yeah.
very unilateral movement, but they're never going to give up golf. And yet they're going to
Hmm.
come in for back pain, that ache in the back because they've hit, a couple rounds of golf like over and over and over and over, and I'm here to give them longevity in their sport as well as
Hmm.
then tell them, okay, well, you better go see the chiropractor because this one, we need a little extra reinforcement here. And then maybe go get a massage or, and we work together to really keep that person on their feet, literally,
Yeah.
and also swinging those clubs. So it's a team sport. And really, if we talk about holistic healthcare, Western medicine is on that holistic wheel,
Right.
but we're all there working together, doing our job. And the idea is that we're really elevating everybody and
Hmm.
health in general. A lot of the time we can call our practices here in America sick care, where we're just taking care of symptoms. But if we're really taking care of health and people are much more conscientious of what they have access to at their fingertips and they're using it, then it helps us as practitioners to be able to help the people who are ill and not just, keeping a symptom at bay.
Yeah. Oh, well, you've given us so much information. So, if you could rewrite the messaging women hear in running culture, what would you want them to believe instead?
That's great. That's a great question. What would I want you to believe instead? If there's nothing more inspiring, like we were talking about at the beginning of this show, getting out there and seeing just like the energy of all of these people coming out for a big race. They've trained for
Yeah.
it. It's like it's their playground that day. And what I see so powerful is when you see people of all ages out there, and there are some women out there who are maybe in their 80s or 90s, and they are
I know.
still moving. And I would say that for any female runner, you can do that too. I think that there is a knack for listening to your body and giving it what it needs when it's asking for it. Don't be discouraged and, know that there are other women out there that are looking to help. There are other women out there that have probably gone through similar challenges. Ask your friends, and through that we can find some answers together and also help support each other.
I love that. Well, that is a perfect place to end it. And it's going to bring us to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. What I hope you take from today's conversation is this: your body is not working against you, it's communicating with you. So, whether you're training for a race, getting back into movement, or just trying to feel like yourself again, you're allowed to slow down, you're allowed to nourish, to recover, and to choose longevity over burnout. Strength doesn't come from ignoring what your body needs, it comes from honoring it. So, thank you, Dr. Parker, for telling us all of the wonderful things about our bodies and how we can keep them moving forever.
Thank you. Yes, it's been a pleasure.
Yes. As always, thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. You can follow me on Instagram at the running wine mom _ and Dr. Parker, where can the listeners find you?
You can check out our website, VUIMclinic.com. Please come and see us if you're local to any of our 3 campuses. Also, we do have our Instagram and our Facebook, so you can follow us there. And please, if you have any questions, you could reach out to us. Our emails are on the website. You can also send inquiries to our clinic, and we'd be sure to have a practitioner respond to you. And we look forward to talking with you more next time.
That's awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of motherhood. Cheers, and I will be back next Tuesday.